Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Hey, man, we're both here. Good times. I feel alive. It's Corey and Aslan. It's Wake Up War Chant. Brought to you by For the Table Hospitality right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. How are you, Corey? You're here.
I am, man.
It's
I
awesome.
am. It's good to be back. Good to be back in the studio looking across from you.
Feels great, man. It feels great. So, it feels so foreign right now, man. It's been a minute. So this is going to be a great show. Solid audio quality and, of course, solid thoughts coming from Corey and myself. So we're going to, I think we should start.
We'll have thoughts.
Thoughts. Maybe not well-articulated thoughts, but there will be thoughts shared on the program. I think I want to start things off most every day, Corey, with something called Things We're Not Going to Talk About Today.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of run the gamut of things that are going on, but we're not going to talk about these things today.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about the great quarterfinal action in the World Cup over in Russia.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about the fantastic deep dive article by Andy Staples on Sports Illustrated with Jimbo Fisher.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about.
Did I read that one?
We're going to talk about those young. We're not going to talk about those young men stuck in that cave still in Thailand, right?
Well,
stay strong there, boys.
As for this taping goes, 4 of them were already out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they're getting them out piecemeal, like 2 at a time. But they got 4 of the 12 out, and they think they can get all of them out, which would be great.
Okay. Well, we just talked about it, and we're not going to talk about. I'm not going to say the other one. We're going to talk about that. That'd probably get people triggered. But, yeah, those are things we're not going to talk about. Things we are going to talk about today, though, include football. You wrote a column over the weekend. I was talking with our own Irish Ophel at the Boss Man's party. Gene Williams threw a fantastic party for the 4th of July.
I couldn't make it, but it was good. With fireworks?
Dude, Southwood puts it down. I mean, they don't mess around in Southwood.
Oh, that's right. Irish said you could see him from his yard.
It was very nice.
Oh, that's
listen,
really
I'm from the Clearwater area. You should go to Clearwater Beach for the 4th of July, and they put on a spectacular show for a subdivision in Tallahassee, Florida, and Leon County.
Man.
Good grief.
All right.
Very nice. Very impressive.
Next
well done,
year I'm
Southwood.
there. Next year I'm there.
Bring it on. So we're hanging out, and we're talking about how I think this is going to be the toughest week for us, maybe, professionally on the program, just because I think it's the last of it, Corey. I think if we can survive this week, we'll be okay, because next week is ACC Kickoff in Charlotte.
Right.
And then I think we'll start building momentum, and we can become a full-fledged sports-only program, which everybody craves and desires. So Ira and I are talking about it. I'm like, man, they haven't even announced who they're going to bring to ACC Kickoff yet. And we kind of start lamenting about who they're probably going to end up bringing. And it's like, man, that's going to be a bummer. He's not a good soundbite.
Right.
He doesn't talk that much, et cetera, et cetera. And then sure enough, I don't know when it was, maybe Friday, Florida State lets a cat out the bag. So they're going to bring Brian Burns,
right,
a.k.a. Fire Burns. It's a true fact. I mean, fire does burn.
That's true. Is that his Twitter handle, Fire Burns?
So, yeah. And then Cam Akers on the offense. You wrote a column about it. I have not read it. It's the first column of yours I probably haven't read since 2011.
I barely read it.
Okay. So what did we glean from the fact that Willie's going to bring those 2 guys to the ACC Kickoff in Charlotte next week?
Well, first off, understand, Aslan and listeners and dear readers, that sometimes you got to scrounge for material to write about in July when you're a Florida State-centric website and, there's no sports going on. So we do what we can. So I probably wrote a little too much on what a decision about bringing 2 guys to ACC Kickoff really means. But one thing in particular that I do think is legit is that there's no chance. I mean, it never happened, so we know there's no chance that Jimbo would have ever brought a sophomore, even a good sophomore like Cam Akers. He would always, bring the senior or the junior that was a 3-year starter. He would always, that always meant more to him for an event like that. And so I think my take was, it says something about Taggart that he's willing to bring a guy that's played for a year. He could have brought Eberle. He could have brought, Nooney, I guess. He could have. But he or another lineman that's been here for a while, Derek Kelly. But he didn't. He brought the star, the guy on his teams that's the biggest name, and that's kind of what a coach should do. He should be trying to make he should try to be bringing the best players with him to showcase them and to showcase his university, and that's what he's did. And it's a small glimpse. I only read so much into it because it's July. But what does that say if he's willing to bring Cam Akers to that what does that say about how he's going to coach a team? Does seniority matter? It seemed like at times it mattered a little bit too much to the former guy. And at Willie Taggart, it does not seem to matter at all. Because he brought Cam Akers. Cam Akers only been interviewed, 3 times since he's been here?
That's about right. I mean, did you guys talk to him in the Shreve after?
Yeah, we talked to him in the Shreve after the bowl game. He was up there on the podium, and then twice probably in the spring, and that's it.
Do you think Jimbo would have let him speak after the bowl game had Jimbo been coaching?
I think so, yeah. He did that in the past. Like Rashad Green didn't talk at all in 2011, but he talked after he was the MVP of that bowl game against Notre Dame. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Jimbo would have done that, and I think it's kind of mandated by those bowls that the guys that, win the MVPs, they have to be made available.
It's refreshing, yeah. I mean, again, these are all the things that, you talk about. He hit the right notes at his introductory press conference. He's hitting the right notes at the booster events by embracing the university, being part of the, the Seminole sort of nation, all that kind of good stuff, the fan base, what I'm talking about in terms of Seminole Nation, not the actual tribe. So this is another thing. I mean, these are small little tests, if you will, or at least, I guess, glimpses into maybe his personality or the way he's going to run things, and don't want to maybe read into it too much, as you mentioned. But, yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, no way. Those two guys?
Cool,
okay,
right?
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I mean, because Burns is pretty frank and candid.
I like Burns a lot. Yeah, he is. I haven't talked to Cam enough to really know him, to know what kind of interview he is or what kind of personality he is, honestly. I've only talked to him once or twice. But, yeah, Burns will just tell you flat out how he feels, which is pretty awesome. And I also mentioned that, man, they must think he's pretty good. I mean, you wouldn't bring that guy to this event. You could have brought DeMarcus Christmas, who came back for his senior year. You could have brought Levante Taylor, who's really good and is also a junior. They must, in my opinion, think this guy is going to be a beast. Like he is going to.
I mean, he's the guy, though, right?
No, I think those other two. I was surprised that it wasn't one of those other two guys. I mean, Brian Burns had 4.5 sacks last year. 2.5 came in one game. I mean, he didn't do. I mean, he had 50 tackles. He was sorry, man. He just wasn't productive at all.
He wasn't. I know it hurts a lot of people's feelings, but it's true.
I feel like he must have been really impressive in the spring because Taggart doesn't owe him anything. He's not Taggart's guy. He hasn't done anything for Willie Taggart. Hasn't helped him win a single game, so he doesn't owe him anything. But he felt that he was the best. He would be a good person to bring to this. So I thought that was refreshing too.
Do you think they deliberated long over whether or not to bring Cam or Kalen LeBourne?
No, probably not. I think Cam was Cam was a pretty easy choice if you're going by those two. But Patrick, I think that if Jimbo was still running the show, I think Patrick would have been the guy up there. I do. I think it'd been Patrick or Eberle, and probably Patrick, which is fine. He's a good running back, but he's not the starter, and he's not as good as the guy that is the starter. But Jimbo would have brought him to answer questions about Cam. I mean, he would have answered questions about himself too, but then also people would have asked him about the, wanting to be the starter and all. I just think that's who Jimbo would have brought. Willie Taggart's like, no, who's our best player? Cam's our best player. All right, he's going.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll be out there next week in Charlotte.
Are we going to get some interviews?
Yeah, that's the plan. Ira's handling that, our managing editor, Ira Schofel, a.k.a. 5-Star Schofel. He's kind of the guy that handled the credential aspect.
So we could get players, too. I mean, we could get players and coaches. Yeah. Who do you want? Is there a coach that you want?
I think.
I mean, obviously Willie, but other than him?
Do we have to talk to him?
Well, we'd probably.
Somebody got upset about me the other day, said I didn't like Willie. I do like Willie. I'm still not in love with Willie yet, but I like Willie. We'll get there.
He hasn't earned your love yet.
Hasn't earned my love, man.
Hasn't given you a bouquet of roses yet, or a rose. Period.
Yeah, Jimbo did. Told me about bouncing around and doing things. So yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna try to talk to Dabo. Try to talk to Mark Richt.
Okay.
And then I don't know who else. I mean, again, this is people are going to get upset. Like, there's nobody else that really. I don't want to talk to Dave Dorn.
What about
I don't want to talk
Fuente?
to Steve Adazio.
You want to talk to him,
Fuente. We'll talk to Fuente.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Fuente. Justin Fuente.
You wouldn't want to talk to Adazio about that beatdown? How did that happen?
They were just dudes. They just weren't enough dudes.
Yeah.
We were more dude that night, dude.
He's probably pissed off they scored the 3. It's like we had a shutout going.
Yeah, well, but player-wise, I don't know who else. I haven't looked at the roster. Maybe during the break I'll look at see who else the other schools are bringing. I don't know if it's everybody's let the cat out the bag of who they're bringing, but yeah, we'll talk to whoever, man. We'll bring them all on, man. We'll be there for 3 days, I think. We'll be there the day before, day 1 and day 2.
Day 1 is the Coastal, right? It's Coastal play. They used to do it where they broke it up by coaches one day and the players the next day for all 14 teams, but now they break it up by division. So I think the Wednesday is the Coastal, and then Thursday is the Atlantic. So we'll get Burns, Akers, and Taggart all for an hour, just in the regular interview setting.
Yeah, not on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
just in the regular interview setting, and then hopefully we'll be able to get all three of them for at least 10 or 12 minutes for a segment on the show, and then also, just maybe shoot the breeze with them off the air, off the record.
Yeah. I'll catch up with Cam about our times back in Mississippi together.
Would he remember you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I covered him for 3 years, man.
I didn't know how covering him mean you just
right.
film clips, or if you interviewed him after.
Yeah, his coach was awesome, and his coach knew the deal. So whenever we'd go there to cover a practice, he was always like, we need to talk to Cam. Like, we don't
even as a junior, right?
Yeah.
When he probably wasn't getting a ton of. I know he's getting recruiting attention, but maybe not like people with cameras.
Oh, no, we were up in his grill probably his sophomore year. Freshman year, we heard about this kid. I mean, he was a middle school legend in the Jackson area. Like, he was trouncing, beating people down. Like, not Noel Devine sort of legend, but he was a legend.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah. And then he got to high school, and everyone's like, this is the kid. And it's like, man, he's a freshman. Like, he's really going to do that much? And, yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
He had a nice career there.
Really good.
Mississippi prep action.
Also, later on this week, as in tomorrow, we'll have David Teal from the Virginian Pilot, longtime ACC scribe. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about the economics. Economics or economics, Corey?
I go with economics.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm an economics guy.
I think I'm an economics guy. Now that I heard it come out of my mouth, I'm an economics guy.
Welcome to the right side of the debate. We'll go over sort of the economics of the ACC network and maybe see if you can give us some insight into some other things that happen when it comes to dollars and
cents.
Do
you say eco-friendly or eco-friendly?
Eco-friendly.
See, that's weird, right?
Yeah. It's the English language for you, man. Nothing makes sense. We'll be back with that, and I want to talk about one position group and how I feel they're getting maybe a little too much love. And not because I'm skeptical. I just think it's just a little we need to tap our brakes on things. Corey will help out with that. We'll be back after this. It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Wake up! Welcome back to the program, 97.9 ESPN Radio's Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan alongside Corey Clark, senior columnist and writer for warchant.com. Show's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Corey, 57 days away. 56, sorry. Take it back. Step back, Aslan. 56 days away from the season opener.
Okay.
Labor Day.
All right.
Emmett Rice, number 56.
I mean, you could always do something with his name.
Right. Emmett Rice.
Rice-A-Roni, the Tallahassee treat. Anyone?
Ding, ding.
Anyone? E-Rice.
He looks, I'm telling you.
The eraser? Instead of eraser, the eraser.
Oh, look at you, man.
That's off the dome, folks.
He's on fire.
Hey, it's just a gift. I didn't ask for this.
Fantastic. I like all that. All right, we'll keep that. Eraser might be one of them. All right. He's got a look to him. So I'm going by the Seminoles.com, the official website of Florida State Athletics, and all the headshots they have of everybody. So I'm looking at the roster that way. If we were to hit 59, which I think we probably did last week, and I just didn't get around to doing it.
Probably the weekend, though. I don't know if we've gotten it.
Dude, Brady Scott looks like Tommy Morrison. Like Tommy the Gun Morrison. Looks just like him.
From the great Rocky V.
Yeah.
For all you movie buffs. Probably the best Rocky. I think that's pretty much agreed upon.
Oh, woof.
It's funny how now they have all these other the new ones that have come out the last Rocky Balboa and then Creed.
Come on.
Creed was good. You didn't like Creed?
I did, but just what are we doing?
But I'm saying they've just completely just that Rocky V with Tommy Gunn doesn't exist. They just buried it. That's not even part of the narrative anymore. Yeah. It's like it didn't happen.
It's a 2017 it's like the 2017 Florida State football season. We're just not going to
don't talk about it. Don't even mention it. It just did not happen. You dreamed that.
Certain Miami games. I don't even remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're making that up. They didn't play that year.
Yeah, so Emmett Rice, so this would have been good if we were on 57 days because it would have been Corey Martinez, and we had to give him a cool nickname, but it's not. It's 56 days away from kickoff. But awkward segue to the offensive line. I saw a thread on warchant.com. The Tribal Council, get your free 30-day trial. Warchant30 is the promo code. There's a lot of things that happened on the message board that drew my ire and my attention over the weekend. So first off, there's a thread that's really, really, really high on the offensive line.
Oh.
Because one of the hot topics, these video features that are on warchant.com with Corey Clark, Irish O'Fell, and Jeff Cameron of ESPN Radio. You can hear them weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. strengths and weaknesses. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses of this football team? What were your strengths and weaknesses, Corey?
I think my strength was the running game, and then I think my weakness was the offensive line.
Okay.
Which, doesn't really compute. That's counterintuitive. But it's more like maybe pass protection. And I think they're gonna run for a ton of yards because of the way the offense is schemed up and because they got really good running backs. But I don't necessarily think it's because they have a lot of elite skill up front. And I think against the really good teams, there will be moments where they can get kind of dominated, which has happened many times in the recent years.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be talking out both sides of my mouth on this, but
it's hard not to. But I tried. It's hard not. It doesn't make sense.
No, not that. I know what you're saying. I think that's fair because there's two facets of being an offensive lineman. It's not just pass pro. It's not just mauling people. There's, for some reason, a lot of people just want to not give the offensive line any credit for Dalvin Cook. And I get it. Dalvin Cook was the man. I mean, Dalvin Cook is the best running back in Florida State history.
Right.
So he gets a lot of the credit. But, I mean, there's holes. I mean, when he bust through Clemson, there's holes. I mean, he didn't do a lot of PlayStation, ridiculous, Barry Sanders, juke you out. I mean,
not to get by the initial guy.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get into the hole. He would do some stuff after he found the hole that was ridiculous. But, yeah, that was like 4 or 5 yards downfield where something was already opened up, and that's kind of what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to make guys miss in the open field.
The freakiest thing about me for him, I just thought when he would go around a corner, like he would accelerate when he would take turns.
Yeah.
Like how are you able to do that? You have to brace yourself, stick your foot in
or
the ground.
you run straight out of bounds like a normal mortal person.
Right.
If you're running full speed to your left and then you try to cut up, I mean, you don't cut on a dime and actually accelerate through the turn. But, yeah, that's seemingly what he did.
That was amazing. So one poster, good guy, I think he's actually even maybe asked a question or two perhaps on the Renegade Express. I'm not going at him here. Lists 11 offensive linemen. It's like, look at these guys, 4-star, 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 4-star. We'll be all right. Like, everyone chill out. Coaching is going to be better, so this is going to be a much, much, much improved segment. And I kind of agree with that sentiment, but, I mean, ultimately, I don't know how many colleges have 10 elite offensive linemen. I think most schools strive to have 5.
Right.
Or I'm like 7, I would say, right? 5 to start, and then one guy who's a swing kind of a guy, like a Derek Kelly, and then another guy who can just kind of maybe fill in both guard spots. Like Derek Kelly can go from tackle to guard. Mm-hmm. So that's like a luxury. Otherwise, you want a guy that can maybe play lefty and righty when it comes to playing on the interior. We've talked about, do they have 5 guys that are going to be mad and play with an edge? They don't. I mean, they just don't. I don't know how much you can expect the offensive line to. You can expect them to be better, but there's a back and forth going on about this could be a very, very, like a strength almost of the team, and I just don't see that.
No, and I think most people don't. I don't know what fraction of the Florida State fan base expects a really good offensive line, but I would say it's pretty small. I think they want a competent offensive line, an average, above average offensive line, and then maybe in a couple of years you can have an elite one. Because it's the same guys, and we watched them. And it's not like Rick Trickett doesn't know what he's doing. Now, maybe his philosophy didn't jive with Jimbo's philosophy, especially last year. It was just a train wreck. But it's still the same players. And I haven't seen anything really from any of those guys that makes you think, okay, they're going to be playing on Sundays. And in my opinion, if you're an elite offensive line in college, especially at a place like Florida State, you have multiple NFL offensive linemen on your team. Do they? They might, just none of them have been proven yet, in my opinion. I think Landon Dickerson has a chance, maybe.
The Eagle Scout.
Certainly some of these guys will be drafted or make a team, but which ones? We don't know. There's nobody that's proven themselves elite on this group of offensive linemen.
Well, here's the list of guys. Jawan Williams, Mike Arnold, Abdul Bello, Dickerson. He actually put Josh Ball down, but he's not with the program anymore. Bavion Johnson, Christian Armstrong, Alec Eberle, Cole Minshew, Derek Kelly, Corey Martinez.
Yeah.
All right, Jawan Williams, again, is untapped potential.
We don't know.
Yeah. I don't know how you can say. I mean, the crux of the argument from him is I don't subscribe to the notion that Florida State lacks talent or depth.
I mean, I don't know that they lack depth. They do have 11 or 12.
Yeah, they have bodies.
Sure. But are they talented? I mean, look, traditionally, historically, offensive line recruits are the hardest ones to gauge with stars. They just are because it's such a different game at the high school level. they're mauling people that are 50 or 60 pounds lighter than them traditionally. It's hard to get a gauge on how good they are. Like the great ones, sure, the Andre Smith at Alabama a decade ago, guys that come through all the guys that Alabama gets seemingly, you can tell right away, okay, that guy is a great offensive lineman. But all the guys behind the elite ones, it's hard to tell, man. There's just I think offensive linemen bust at a higher rate, quote unquote, at a higher rate than any other position because it's so hard to recruit and it's so hard to decipher if they're a 2-star or a 4-star just because they're big and they're mauling people. So a guy that's a 4-star recruit, it doesn't, we don't know how good he is till he's in college. You can see a running back and a receiver and a quarterback and be like, okay, that guy has some real skills. That guy has a chance to play at the next level. With offensive linemen, man, it's a reason it's the hardest position to scout. You just don't know. And so a guy that was a 4-star as a 17-year-old, that doesn't mean he's a good player as a 20-year-old against grown men.
I mean, for me, when it comes to Juwan Williams, it's the injury aspect, which I keep talking about. It's the fact the guy's got shoulder problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
isn't great for offensive linemen.
He hasn't played at all since he's been here and missed the entire spring because of the shoulder injury. Mike Arnold is the wild card. I mean, Mike Arnold is the wild card.
Where's he from?
He's from Winter Park.
Okay, all right.
Was committed to Virginia Tech at one point, but then he went prep school.
All right.
And then ended up with Florida State. Abdul Bello, I mean, I think, Greg Fry was on the recruiting, or not the recruiting show, was on the booster trail and shared a story about how one of the guys on his unit played football at a high school that no longer has football at the school, to give you an idea of what I'm dealing with, he kind of, said.
Right.
So it wasn't the most ringing endorsement of a guy like Abdul Bello. Dickerson, we feel good about. He's going to start. Bavion Johnson, he's one of these mythical, he's Hercules and Zeus wrapped into one, and like Anthony Munoz and John Ogden. And
prove it. You got to prove it at some time, baby.
Well, he just got to stay healthy, and then we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I know.
Christian Armstrong.
What about Big Baby? Do you think that's a good nickname for him?
No.
Big Baby?
Baby. Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Big Baby. That's a good one, right?
Okay, all right.
So we got two. We got Eraser, the Eraser, and Big Baby. We're killing it.
We don't have to do a show like in a week and a half when it's Bavion's turn. Christian Armstrong's a true freshman. I'm not putting any expectations on him. Alec Eberle, I think he's an above-average center.
Sure.
I think he's an above-average college center. Cole Minshew, I think.
And he won't be asked to do nearly as much as he was in that other offense.
Right. Cole Minshew, if he can say he's a guy that's battling health problems throughout his career, whether it's ankle, concussion, I mean, that sort of stuff. Derek Kelly, I think we both like Derek Kelly. Just gives you versatility, but it's like master of none.
Yeah, is he an elite lineman?
Right. And then Corey Martinez, who's been here for a while and hasn't found a way to kind of crack through, the roof of getting into the starting five. So, I mean, a smart kid. But again, I don't know how much that translates to Saturday. So, I mean, after all that, you go through 10 guys and you only really feel good about 3. I mean, that's where I think you're right when you talk about the strength and weaknesses of the.
It's an unknown, right? It doesn't mean they can't be good. It doesn't mean they can't be above average, but they haven't been. Collectively as a group and individually, most of them as players have not been good college offensive linemen yet. But they got time. Many of them are young, and it's a new system. And they might be good with different coaching. We'll see, but it's certainly hard to think that that's going to be a strength going into the season.
See, I don't know if this is apples to oranges, and I want to get your thought on this. Has anything changed in the post-Jameis world with the way, maybe not so much people in the media, but maybe fans expect out of kids that are young in terms of their seniority in a program? Do fans expect more out of freshmen since Jameis arrived? Because I feel Jameis caught most people by surprise. There were the insiders that said, they heard that Jameis was tearing it up. But, I mean, for most people, everybody was waiting to hear, the week before the game, who was going to start the game against Pitt. And then we saw how fantastic he was. Now I think everybody's in the race to pick out the next guy. Who's the next freshman that's going to arrive on campus? Who's the next redshirt guy? Who's the next guy that, he lost last year with injury, but now he's here, now he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. I just feel there's that reach and grasp from a lot of fans now where they're just, this guy's going to be the dude. Because I don't know how much of it's that we saw a guy like James kind of come out of nowhere and take the world by storm.
Yeah, well, he was a redshirt, so it was a little different. But, maybe, but right after that, you had Jalen Ramsey, who was a true freshman on that same team. You had Dalvin Cook the next year. You had Derwin James come through. So you've had this run of freshmen, incredible freshmen that were really good right away. And so, yeah, as Florida State fans, you sign a couple 5-star kids, and Jimbo, you used to always talk like you want them to be superstars when they're freshmen. You want them to be superstars when they're sophomore. And if they're not playing by the time they're a sophomore, well, then they're a bum and they're a bust. And that's not how it works in college football.
Especially at the offensive line position.
At the offensive line, for sure, but more and more at the skill positions. Yeah, man, freshman and sophomore play a lot. And you don't want to waste a year when you only get them for 3. You don't want to waste one of their years by sitting them on a bench. Yeah. But at offensive line, man, that's why I think how many great freshman offensive linemen have there been in Florida State history? A handful, maybe. We talked about Jernigan as a on the defensive side. It's just hard in the trenches as a freshman to make any sort of impact. Even your first or second year, it's hard. You got to get bigger and stronger and learn the speed of the game and the physicality of the game.
Yeah, that just comes back to me. I think people may be putting like too much expectation on a guy like Jawan Williams and Bavion Johnson. I just think that
you got to prove it first, man. Yeah. The stars don't matter anymore. And I know that's a cliche, but they don't. It doesn't matter. You have to prove it at this level. You have to prove it against Virginia Tech and Bud Foster. Just not what you did 2 years ago in high school.
And and I don't care about this. I mean, but when I was in Dothan doing the radio show, I picked Florida State to beat Alabama. I went into the game not supremely confident, but
that's you. Part of you is just a contrarian in general.
Sometimes. I mean,
I got you.
I see both sides of things, but I mean, I can't be a Florida State guy on a radio show in Alabama and then pick Alabama. I mean, I got to have some pride. Right. You got to have some.
Pretty sure I guess you'd call me a Florida State guy because I'm doing a radio show here in Tallahassee, but I'm pretty sure I picked Alabama to win that one.
Oh yeah, keep your journalistic.
Well, it was
one of us needs
Nick
to.
Saban, man. Does he ever lose those games ever?
I remember saying stupid things like, Florida State, they'll be fine. I mean, they got guys that are going to emerge that are due to really step up out wide. I mean, a guy like Nooney Murray, whoever that guy was, Nooney Murray, finished the season out really strong. And then you got, Keith Gavin is a physical specimen. He's got to improve in year number 2. And
George Campbell's a speed freak that's 6'4".
Yeah,
Alabama can't cover him.
I didn't factor that so much. But, things like that. And then you play the game, and it's like, all right, so there's a reason why you probably shouldn't count on people that haven't done anything yet to do really big things. Now, I'm not saying you can't expect these kids to step into a starting lineup and perform well eventually, but like day 1, week 3, week 4, I don't know. I mean, we've seen it with guys, even at the skill position that are younger, that you feel like, they're due. They got to step up this year, and they don't. So
it's a brand new ball game, buddy. It's a brand new ball game for those skill guys.
It is. Do something. We're going to do something. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk more about, I think, the worst thread maybe of the entire year so far on warchant.com.
Oh, boy.
Let's wake up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome back to the program. Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio. Brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. He's Corey Clark. Thanks for being here. This is like 4th of July, isn't that like the last? Actually, no, we got Labor Day comes up in September, which is like 50-something days away. But then after Labor Day, it's like, no, even not that. I don't know what's going on right now.
I don't either, man. I was trying to follow you, but it was hard.
There's always like the blues. Like there's that you hit that like lull in the calendar where there's like no holiday in sight. There's no holiday weekend, but we're like in the teeth of it right now.
I'd say from Labor Day to Thanksgiving, you don't really get anything off. I mean, there's Halloween, but
that's only 1 month in between them, though.
Yeah, that's
October
true.
Between it. So bad start to the segment, but we'll pick it up here. We'll talk about other bad things.
I blame you.
Yeah, it's totally my fault. I'm driving this one. Let's talk about bad threads on the Tribal Council. All right, Corey.
By the way, folks, still, we have that 30-day free trial.
Yeah.
So you can go see for yourself.
Right. So I probably need to know my audience, and I'm going to be talking about something that peeved me with a guy who's part of a stalwart show that's like a ratings topper, Seminole Headlines, which is Corey Clark, Ira Schafel, and Jim Cameron, that's made a killing out of using food as a metaphor for the hibbity-dibbity for years.
Yep, right.
So somebody posts a thread about Taggart and Weiner. Okay? Taggart and Weiner.
Right. You found a Beavis and Butthead clip?
Weiner being the head coach at Plant High School in Tampa.
Right.
Apparently at one point, I think he had agreed to join Willie's staff at USF before that kind of fell apart last minute, and then he stayed at Plant.
Isn't Plant like a huge, they win a lot all the time?
Yeah, very good. Very good football program. Probably the best in the Bay Area, unless you count IMG as the Bay Area, but no, I don't count them. They're mercenaries. And the whole thread just devolves into double entendres about, sounds like a good idea, but I just wonder if he can stand up tall when the moment matters most.
Right.
And how firm will he be in his beliefs?
Yeah.
And it's, I'm like, we got like 50-year-old guys with mortgages and kids, like making wiener jokes on internet message board.
It doesn't really ever leave you, man. It just doesn't.
It doesn't, like life never beats you. Like, I've probably laughed at a fart joke probably since I was in third grade.
No, I haven't done that. Like, yeah, I don't get those. They don't really make me laugh. But a good, good wiener joke.
Good double on is just timeless.
Double entendre, yeah, I like that stuff. Sure. I don't do it a lot, but when I do, I make it count.
And then one guy had to take it too far, and I'm not going to read the actual comment because it's grossly uncomfortable. Thankfully, the moderators locked it down. I'm like,
there is always that one guy that just, when you're all joking, he goes into a weird space.
The worst.
Where you're like, man, you got to back up. We're a civilized society. We're all just joking around here. You can't say stuff.
Have you ever seen the GIF? I said it the wrong way.
No,
GIF.
the GIF.
You're right, GIF.
Yeah.
GIF. Have you ever seen the GIF of Seinfeld where he's sitting down in an auditorium and he kind of looks around like he's grossed out and he gets up and puts his hands up like, I'm done with this. I'm out of here. Somebody responded to that horrible, the double entendre just went way, way too far with that GIF, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And then it ended it.
Okay.
That, though, is not the worst thread that was on the Tribal Council this month. I think once we get to probably football season, football season will probably do one a day.
Nothing.
But then, did you make a double entendre? No. Sorry. I was locked into it. Somebody posted the whole photo about Derwin's mother getting a home, right?
Okay.
I mean, Derwin bought his mom a house.
Yeah, I think Sports Illustrated retweeted it last week.
Yeah.
But it happened a couple weeks ago, right? Didn't it? We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
I thought we talked about it on the program last week.
Okay, might have been.
But anyhow.
Good for him. Good for him.
It all starts off, great job, way to be, Derwin, way to buy the house. Good for you. That's awesome. One guy comes in with I hate the style of the typical Florida house. They all look the same and just so blah looking. So we got the architectural guy on here.
Right.
And whatever, that's fine.
Sure.
Some people don't like the way McMansions look. Some people like craftsman bungalow type houses.
I mean, some people might say, okay, well, that's an opinion you don't have to share
on
a feel-good thread.
Yeah, it's fine, though.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. And it's a beautiful house. I mean, it's got that, like I said, it's got that Spanish tile. It's like a nice yellow meringue color, white trim. Beautiful home. Mm-hmm. Beautiful home. I guess it's outside of Orlando, too, apparently, in some sort of like master plan community. So,
all right.
She's in Florida. He's keeping her here.
Good job, Derwin.
Yeah, attaboy. And then just out of nowhere, he'll be broke inside 3 years.
Okay.
Somebody just comes right into the party.
Yep.
So
you didn't mind the thread. It wasn't the worst thread of the year. It was the worst post.
Okay, there you are. That's better. All right, better. Well articulated.
Yeah.
The wiener one was probably the worst thread then. So I mean, I was right. That was just stop it.
Yeah, there's a lot made. I know they had the 30 for 30 called broke or whatever it was, how these athletes lose their money, but man, it's not because they buy their mom's houses. What's Derwin? As long as Derwin gets to a second contract, and why wouldn't he? Then it's just a weird thing to like say and almost kind of wish upon them.
Well, I don't think he's wishing upon it, but why?
He wants to be proven right, I bet. Somebody that would go into a thread like that, this is my opinion, just a pop psychologist, they would go into a thread like that, which is all positive about what a man did for his wife, not his wife, his mom, and what a nice, wonderful gesture it is, and have to feel like to dive in there to say he's going to be broke in 3 years. I think that's the kind of personality that wants that to come true. That's just me. I think he wants that to come true, and he'll be upset if it doesn't.
I just don't. I mean, listen,
because you would never go into a thread and say that, would you?
No,
so it's hard to relate to that kind of mindset.
I'm skeptical, and I complain about a lot of stuff. I get it, but like, I just wouldn't. That just doesn't come to my mind on that. And then there was actually somebody else that like quoted him and was like helping defend him. Like, stop.
Yeah. Well, it's a message board in July, so there's going to be stuff that's, typed out that, it's just stuff to talk about right now. But you certainly don't hope that. And there's really no reason to think that Derwin would be broke within 3 years. Why would you think that? Why would anybody think that?
He bought his mom a house. It'd be one thing if he was standing in front of like 2 Aston Martins with
or 4 Lamborghinis,
2 Rolexes on each wrist or something.
Yeah.
Then you could be like, all right, maybe we need to refigure what we're doing here.
And I really wonder, honestly, when it comes to a place like Florida State. So he's buddies with Jalen Ramsey. He went to school with Jalen Ramsey and Dalvin Cook. His buddies, his friends, have lived this life. They can give him advice and say, look, this is what you have to do. You have to find a financial advisor that you trust, and this is what you have to do. I do think that going to a place like Florida State can be a good kind of, study hall for living with that kind of money. Because Jalen Ramsey's been a millionaire the last 3 years since Derwin's known him. He can see how he lives his life and what he does with his money. And I'm assuming Jalen Ramsey's smart with his money. And also Jalen Ramsey's going to be getting paid an enormous salary here in a few years, just like, if Derwin's good, he will. So it just seems like you see all this practical life in front of you if you're a Florida State player, where you can go, okay, that's what I'm going to do with my money. That's what I can do with my money, and I'm not going to lose it. You would think.
And as the thread started, and I guess this may be me being narcissistic,
it started to devolve a little bit.
The guy who starts the whole thing, or makes the party into like a bad party, says that he asks the questions that need to be asked. He provokes debate and provides an introspective look at one's own thoughts and philosophies. I'm a lot like Aslan in that respect.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Good for you, buddy.
Oh, man. That's
what you do. You're a provoker.
That's what I bring to the table.
That's funny. Well, man, I hope the person that posted that doesn't really think that Derwin is going to be broke in 3 years, and certainly doesn't want him to be. Derwin did not grow up with a great childhood and he might have had a great childhood, but it wasn't a well-to-do upbringing. Yeah, it wasn't privileged at all. So him giving his mom that gift, and that seems like a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And you just hope, like all of them, like every athlete, like every entertainer, you hope they can say no, because you have to. The money will run out if you can't say no. I wouldn't think it's an illustration of him not being able to say no to buy his mom a house.
Yeah.
That's what you say yes to. If his buddy's taking Instagram pictures in a Lamborghini, then you got issues. But buying his mom a house is not an illustration of anything other than he loves his mom and wanted to buy her a house.
And it's a backup plan, so if he does go broke, at least he's got somewhere to live afterwards.
Got some property.
Got some
property, man. That's fine. You can sell that bad boy right back.
Actually, there was a guy, and I've tracked him down on Twitter, and I forgot to write his information down, but I'm sure I can retrace it. I don't know if it was a guy that Jimbo brought in or a guy that Willie brought in, but there's an actual financial advisor that Florida State brings in to talk to these kids while they're still Florida State student athletes.
Yes.
So I'd like to maybe pick that guy's brain. Maybe we'll try to get him on. We're going to start again. We're going to have weekly interviews. We'll have to give us some sort of fancy title or something. But maybe that'll be one of the ones
How
that
about
we'll
wake-up interviews?
No.
It's not fancy enough.
You've exhausted yourself today.
The eraser took way too much out of me.
Walk off right there, material. So I'll try to think of that. But yeah, we'll have David Teal again to talk about ACC economics tomorrow's program. But I'll try to maybe get that. I think that'd be kind of interesting to talk about.
Did you say economics just now or economics?
Did I say economics?
No, you did say economics, and that's what we go with, right?
Okay, yes, that's what we're doing. Yeah. That's what we've said. All right, let's step aside for a final break of the day. We'll be right back after this. Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. I like this one. For real, bad boy. Stretch, shake, let it go. Breathe, stretch, shake.
Monday show's almost done. Good job, Corey. We've made it this far. We did a couple more minutes to go. It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. Show's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Corey, you're the brains, the wit, the driving force behind the show. You're also the ethical, moral compass of the program.
Sure.
So I have a question.
Says a lot about the show.
I have a question for you. There's a question that came in on the Renegade Express after we had recorded last week's show. Don't forget, folks, get involved. 850-792-5730, 850-792-5730. And there was 2 messages from the same person, and each message was about 3 minutes long.
Okay.
All right, so this is my question. The guy's voice is awesome. It's like the guy who did Unsolved Mysteries meets your favorite conspiracy show on Netflix. Just the voice is perfect.
The guy that does the Dateline stuff, that guy? Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
So the first phone message he leaves is 2.5 minutes, and it's you very politely saying that you and I are naive about not worrying about the economics of an ACC network and losing the revenue gap increasing between Florida State and other schools, basically saying that ultimately the more money these SEC programs get, the more they're going to be able to hire the support staff people, and that's what's going to give them the edge over Florida. Like Florida State won't be able to keep up with the amount of tutors and nutritionists and interns and assistants and all that kind of stuff that Alabama has right now. So that's what
but
he's
again,
trying to point out.
Will that matter with Arkansas and Ole Miss?
I don't know.
It ain't gonna.
All right.
Still, Florida State's gonna have better players. But go ahead.
2.5 minute message.
Okay.
And then it cuts off. He calls back in, and in the first message, he says right off the bat, I don't think I want to be a featured caller on the show. I just want to call and share my thoughts.
Okay. All right.
Second message when he calls back, he's like, oh, I got cut off. Also want to let you know that my name is, and he says his name, spells it out. So I'm like, well, if you called back a second time and you actually gave us your name and you spelled it so that we had it correctly, are you not almost now allowing us to use the call in the show?
So you're asking me if we should?
Yes.
No, because as long as he explicitly said that he didn't want to be, or if he wasn't sure he wanted to do it, then look, it's not really a gray area. He knows what this is for. People call this, they leave messages, we play them on air. Yeah. But just to be, nice people, if somebody is hesitant about being on air, we wouldn't want to play it. But even if he spells his name or not, I don't care how. We're not. This isn't a book report. No names have to be spelled correctly. So no, if he's not 100% wanting to be on the air, then I wouldn't feel great about doing that.
It was awesome, man. It was awesome.
But another thing about that, real quick, about what he said, I don't know the disparity when it comes to the money. I don't think it will ever affect Florida State football. I think Florida State football is always going to do what it has to do to compete. It just will, and it always will. It can start bleeding down to the other sports, for sure, because the SEC has to do something with that money. They can't just spend it all on football. That's why they're getting these huge baseball stadiums, or they're making renovations to softball, or their swimming pool, or whatever they're doing. They have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. So that's where I think Florida State could maybe fall behind, is in the other sports, because the money does. You need every single penny you can get in those non-revenue sports, and the SEC is getting a lot more. Look at baseball and softball. They dominate I know Florida State won in softball and Oregon State won in baseball, but the SEC dominated those World Series with teams. It's because they have the most money.
There we go. There it is right there. I was about to say, but it's not the SEC, so I guess it doesn't obviously help the argument. But they do have the Longhorn Network, which gives them money. But Mike White, who's the softball coach at Oregon, and Oregon's got one of the best softball programs in the nation, Texas just went and scooped him up last month.
Oh, really?
So, those
they
sports,
only got that money, yeah.
Yeah, those sports, they'll be able to, maybe kind of go all in on guys. And I guess we'll ultimately see whenever Florida State makes the baseball
more money.
hire.
They have more money at their disposal for the quote-unquote lesser sports, the non-revenue sports. Florida State always has, and I believe always will compete in football. They just will. That's where their money will have to go. And if the money does get tight, if this ACC network doesn't work out, and we'll talk with David Teal tomorrow about it, then they're going to have to start making some decisions about how much money they want to pay coaches in sports that don't make any money. Because other than 2, none of the sports on campus make money. But a lot of coaches get paid a lot of money for it. Sue Semrau's well paid. Mark Krikorian is well paid. They don't make a ton of money. They don't make any money really for the university. Yeah. So at some point, you hope that you don't have to make those decisions about cost effective and is this worth paying this great coach? And they're both great coaches. Is this worth it if we're not making any return because we keep losing money?
Part of the voicemail.
But I hope they stay forever. I hope that make that clear. They're wonderful to deal with, and they're very good coaches.
Part of the so the voicemails get transcribed out into words that I can read, but it's usually not accurate. But there's part where it says, you have to remember they're going to be around consultants that are coaches that masquerade around, and that's where the money disparity is going to show up. It's an issue that's already showing up. Alabama had the money to pay and pick up a good extra $10 million. They can pay 20 guys $400,000 to $500,000 a year to do that. That is the big trick in Nick Saban's system, or the big cheat, rather, in Nick Saban's system.
I don't disagree with that. But I want to see what it's like after he leaves. Alabama's always had a lot of money. I want to see what it's like after he leaves, if it still stays like this, or if it goes back to what it. I don't think they'll ever go back to the DeBose days when they were 3-9. But maybe they will. I don't know. But I also don't think they're going to be on top forever. And money can help. You can do great with consultants. You need a really good head coach. They're spending a lot of money on a really good head coach. So, but when he leaves, does the program take a significant step down?
I'm trying to find the tweet, and I'm not having much luck on it, but I'm doing it on the fly, which is probably the reason I'm not able to. But I remember when Alabama played Washington in that semifinal a few years ago in the college football playoff, there was a radio guy in Washington that tweeted out something crazy about, like, he had heard that Alabama had requested every single offensive play on video from Boise State from Chris Peterson's tenure. Like, they had basically, was illustrating the ability that Alabama had enough coaches to go back and look 10 years into Chris Peterson's history to break down every single offensive play to be ready for that game. And I mean, they absolutely demolished Washington.
But that was because of the talent,
right? But that doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt to have all your, I's dotted and T's crossed, sure, but it also seems like at some point it's diminishing returns. Like a Boise State game from 2011, how often, if he runs a trick play in that game, how often do you practice for that one trick play that he ran 7 years ago? And is that taken away from actual practice time? I'm sure if Saban had his druthers, they would practice 9 hours a day. But you can't. It's only a finite amount of time. So all those coaches, there's only so much information they can give that helps you win football games. I would like to see, and this isn't a joke, it's going to sound like I'm being sarcastic because I almost always am. I would like to see that same staff at Alabama, the exact same people, the numbers, the 50 people they have on staff, put them at a UTEP or New Mexico State and see what they do with that coaching staff.
Yeah.
Where do you think they'd go? Would they be a bowl team? It's at some point, at most points, it's about the players. They get great players. And as far as we know, they're not paying them. That's not where the money's going.
Air quotes.
The money's going to these coaches. And I just think it's diminishing returns. You can have 50 or 60 on a staff. How many do they have in the NFL? And that's their jobs. And I think Alabama has more on staff than some NFL teams do. Yeah. But the NFL could have 100. There's no limit, I don't think, in the NFL of how many quality control assistants you have, but they also know that there's only a finite amount of time to get all that coaching done and to get all that game planning in. And so again, the money is a big deal. I'm not trying to say it isn't. I think it's a bigger deal for the lesser sports when it comes to Florida State, but it is a big deal, and it's not equitable. I just think that 20 quality control assistants compared to 9, what does that equate to on a football field? 3 points? 4.5 points? It's hard to quantify.
Inches, brother.
It's all about the inches. You're right about that. Like that thread. Yeah. There's another one.
There he goes. He's on fire. All right, man, let's put you out because we're done for the day, man. We'll be here all week, though. Thanks for listening. He's Corey Maslon. It's Wake Up War Chant 97.9 ESPN Radio. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3.
Darn pop-ups and video ads.
Are you wasting your time again on clickbait FSU updates that are bloated down with ads?
Yeah. And after crashing my computer, the information isn't even up to date. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with the Seminoles?
For the real scoop, you'll need to get your own War Chant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer right now.
You know I like free. Sign me up.
Use the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Nobody has more accurate and timely information on the Noles than warchant.com.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.